Okay. Okay. Can you hear me, Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening to you.
I'd like to I gotta mute. You want me to mute? You good now?
You're on mute. That's Sunny, are you on mute? Well, we both can't be on mute.
Right now.
Can you still hear all right, Linda? Okay. That's unmuted. Is that okay?
I can hear now, Z. Yes, I can hear now.
Okay, very good. So we did have to delete that one item, letter E as in Edward, off of our list of new business. I don't think we have, do we have any presentations? Okay. Yeah, we have IDG on here, and we also have Coastal Record LLC on here. So I don't know if you want to give your presentations now or.
Good evening, my name is Mark Sherman. Representing Mark Lane Properties, Record Coatesville LLC. And this is my architect, Julie Bent, from Weaver Architects. Thank you for hearing me this evening. I'd just like to make a few comments and a request, if I could. One is I would like to apologize that our contract had expired with the RDA. I believe on January 25th, 2022, with the contract to renovate the records building and to provide a restaurant and to build one. Couple things is, as like the Midway Arts building, we hit the ground running and we built it and we completed it very efficiently with private financing and contractors and construction that moved very quickly. The records building, we had a couple snags. And one of the snags was COVID, as everybody knows. In addition to that, we had lost the first axe throwing tenant. That's it, to be a combination of restaurant, axe throwing, pass through within the layout of the building. We lost that tenant in November. We recruited a different axe throwing, Slight Edge, which is from, I think the Exton area. We recruited them, we signed a lease with them, and they are to open simultaneously with the restaurant open. So we had supply issues with the COVID, with equipment and building materials that we needed. But the request is that we can have the restaurant built and operating within the next 90 days. We have already started. We have done a lot of cleanup work, non-permitted work, and we sanded the floors, painted the place, removed a whole bunch of debris in there. We painted the outside of the building, partially weather permitting, and we have all of our equipment ordered, just a time delay in getting it to us. In addition to that, we had some, which Julie was kind enough to zip over here, last minute request to explain a little bit about some other things regarding permitting, codes, switching from a business office to a restaurant and what the ADA requirements of that is.
Yeah, so the building would have been grandfathered exactly the way it was if it had remained business, but it is now going from business to assembly with the change to restaurant as a record building. So we have some ADA issues that are that keep arising, and with the tenant change and not knowing exactly if we were going to have axe throwing or what tenant was going to lease that other half, it was hard to proceed, not knowing if it was going to be axe throwing or what type of business was going to go into that other half. So we went ahead and we kind of were stalled there for a minute until we had that. Now we can move ahead full steam. LTL has been working with us to try and get this expedited as quickly as we can. I know we're going to go back to them and just try and get a building permit from them and install the electrical for a week, because that's what's holding us up as far as the building permit. So separate those two out, let them go full steam on the building, and the electrical will go into LTL next week. So that's how we proceed.
Right. In addition to that, the project is fully funded with private finance. 100%, it's all in our bank account. So President's Bank was the bank that we used to finance that. And just one more thing is that the small building on the other RDA property next to Midway that is sitting on the parking lot, 2-story small building, we have the financing secured in our bank account to renovate that as well. And simultaneously with a different crew, we'll be building the restaurant and the small, what we call the outbuilding at the 139 or 135 East Chestnut Street parcel. So the request that I'd like to respectfully make is to give us an additional 90 days from today on the original RDA contract that had, I believe, expired on January 25th, 2022.
What's that problem?
Questions of Mr. Kirby in connection with his request.
Mr. Sherman, do you see any hangups within the 90 days? Obviously, there were some hangups in the express.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you see anything happening in these 90 days that holds you up to prevent another, that will not prevent another extension?
I think that it would be, the short answer is I never want to be on a tight leash. I called the chef partner in the operations as I was driving over to here and asked, when can you have this restaurant up and running? And I also called my construction partner and asked him the same question. So they say 90 days. I trust them. If the board could consider 120 days, I personally would feel better with that, just to have a cushion. I think we may be able to get the restaurant up and open prior to that, but it's better to have a little bit more of the request if I had my way, because it's technical to come and get extension. We typically don't ask for extensions, we just do it, but in this particular case, seems to be a little bit more complicated because the liquor license took a year, the COVID, the supply chain, which was totally unforeseen, the cost of supplies, everything is kind of things that are beyond our control. But in short, I think we can probably do it to 90. I would like 120 if the board would consider, but I think that 90 would be sufficient.
How soon do you think you're going to be able to secure permits?
So I think if we separate the building from the electrical, the building permit is already submitted and we're less than 30 days for the building. So I think that, and I've seen Mark not only work at Midway, but at other buildings outside of Coatesville. And once he gets his crew going, don't blink because it's going to be done. So he's fast. So once I get that done, so I think that we're 30 days from now to get the building permit at max.
For the carpentry?
Yeah, but I don't think it, I think we're already in revision and review, so I think we're probably a week out.
Every time you ping pong back and forth with codes, LTL, it's a 30-day
Yeah,
period to respond back. So that's what she's referring to. I think we're actually in the building doing non-permitted work.
yeah.
So we're actually working, it's just, we're dragging that along because I don't want to get too crazy and too ahead of my skis regarding permitting. I want to do it properly. So we can start working on the facade of the building tomorrow.
Yeah, I understand that, but I also understand the permitting process. And you're saying if we separate the electric out, the lights have to come on for you to open the door. So you have that electrical permit, whether it's a separate permit that needs, if that's 90 days out, then how are you gonna open?
LTL has 30 days to respond to, like, if I submit next week, LTL has 30 days to respond. However, I've already submitted electrical, so.
Okay, so it's already into them.
Right, so this is a revision to that, so it should be less than 30 days, because it's a revision, but can't speak for LTL as to when they will respond.
In your practice, have you seen them, I've never heard them taking the full 30 days. Have you seen in their practice, where they do take the full 30 days?
No, Mike, Schenk is our code official, and I might be saying his name incorrectly, but, he has been very responsive, and so I would say that we would have our building, the construction part of it probably next week, and I would say we would have the electrical probably, if I give him everything next week, within 2 weeks after that, so 21 days, I would say.
Prior to Mike, did we wait 30 days intervals is what he's asking, prior to the.
Sometimes with Carrie, we did wait longer. Yeah, but Carrie's no longer there. He has since retired. So Mike is now our main point of contact, and he is much more responsive.
Certainly.
So, Mr. Sherman, I spoke with your attorney, Rebecca, earlier this afternoon. She said that she has been only specifically retained in connection with preparation of the deed for the new developer and the record Coatesville LLC, but that she would communicate with her client. And at 4:17 p.m. this afternoon, she sent me an email. Actually, I spoke with my client. The reason this issue, is in the matter of the due date of January 2022 completion had come and gone. She says the reason this issue is not moved forward in the past 7 days is that my client has been traveling internationally with no service. Mr. Como, Mr. Chris said if you contact you directly as soon as it clears customs, you have permission to speak directly to my clients on this matter. And so Rebecca had sent that at 4:17 p.m. I left Coatesville. In my call earlier to her this afternoon, she said the financing closing that I had implied didn't happen last week did not happen this week, and the deed is assigned to record Coatesville LLC. So my question is what happened last week, and when is record Coatesville now contemplating title, and what does that mean for your financing?
The client that she's referring to is Lane Udis. Lane Udis just landed on a plane in Philadelphia about an hour ago, in which I got a phone call bringing me up to date of all of this matter regarding timelines, expirations, and due dates. I had called Julie to find out what her position was regarding permits and when can we get this restaurant up and running? And I decided to come here in person without any prior knowledge of some of these line items more than an hour ago. So in addition to that, I think that we recently sold one of our successful projects in Philadelphia, something very similar to the Midway Arts Building, almost identical in structure on Germantown Avenue. And we were needing a 1031 tax exchange, and we realized that the entity of that building and the entity of the records building are the same owners. So we needed to separate that, in which we did not do a 1031 tax exchange, but our accountant, Markham Accountants, had recommended that we do the change anyway. So we're at a slower pace of doing the change with the same principles for tax purposes only. So I apologize for all of that last minute request for the RDA to change the SPE owner to a different SPE owner of the property.
I understood that the lender didn't change. Is there an issue with the lender funding?
No, sir. No, sir. The President's Bank had financed us, I think 70 LTV, 70% LTV. That financing has been completed without the switch of the entity names. And that money is sitting in our bank accounts to do the construction for the restaurant and the Axon facility. In addition to the outbuilding on next to Midway Arts Building. So the financing is closed and the cash is in the bank.
Any other questions, Mr. Sherman?
So, Mr. Chairman, the recent changes in the Pennsylvania Sunshine regarding additional that being added to an agenda, the protocol, the new Sunshine amendments is the board has to conduct a vote on whether or not to add the new matter to the agenda because of the time-sensitive nature of the matter, and that's just the put it on the agenda. And then all of it will be on the agenda itself. The board will have a separate vote on to accept or reject or condition the request for the developer. And then Roseanne, as the retail officer, has got to update the
Hey, can you guys speak up? I can't hear you guys.
within 24 hours of today. So there's 3 steps that we have to take in order to act on Mr. Sherman's request. Number 1, conduct a vote on that this agenda. Number 2, to vote on the merits of Mr. Sherman's request for the developer. And number 3 would be moving and updating the agenda as a revised agenda. Within 24 hours.
So I guess the first thing is we would have to vote to decide if we want to put Mr. Sherman's request for an extension on our agenda.
I would make a motion to move forward with adding Mr. Sherman's request to the agenda. I'll second that.
For 120 days,
For 90 days.
for 90?
That's what he has.
If I could request 120, I would like that. I will build the restaurant quick as possible, and will not mind opening the restaurant earlier than 120 days. I just think it was in lieu of coming back for any issues, 120 days.
That's the only thing I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm only voting on to place this on the agenda. The next thing that he's saying will be the next number 2.
Well, if we're gonna put it on the agenda, we'll put it on for 90 or 120.
I see what you're saying.
And then we'll have to vote on that.
Okay, so my motion is to add this to the agenda for 120 days.
And this is just to put it on the agenda.
Yes.
Right.
Could I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, so that becomes letter H, correct, Lou? Letter H under new business is a 120-day extension. Okay, and that's just to add it to our agenda. And we'll have to go through our new business here. Can you hear us now, James?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think the only reason why I can hear you is because you are on a Zoom link. but everyone else, I can't really hear.
Okay,
I mean, if the microphones are on, Ruth Ann would have to just turn on the mics and the speaker, so the speaker would pick up everyone's voice. But I don't know if you want to do that, right? I mean, you know, I don't know how much more time you guys have.
Yes. Do we want to vote on F and H, just to keep them out? We do have another presentation, but what I'm thinking is so we can get Mr. Sherman done. There are two items on our agenda that deal with Mr. Sherman's project, and that is letter F as in Frank and letter H. F being considered presentation by successful redeveloper for project update and potential addendum to sale redevelopment agreement 204-206 East Lincoln Highway project to Coatesville Record LLC as a successor to Mark Lane LLC. Change one LLC to the other, same principles, correct?
Correct.
I would make a motion to approve that. Thank you, Tyrone. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's letter F as in Frank. The other thing related to his project is letter H as in Harry, and that's a request for a 120-day time extension for him to get his restaurant open. Could I get a motion on that? Thank you, Joe. Could I get a second? Thank you, Jack. All those in favor of granting the 120-day extension from today's date? Aye. Thank you. Good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
No
all
problem.
very much. Appreciate
Take
it.
care. Thank you.
We will be number one.
What are you gonna do with the garage on Lumber Street?
I'm gonna vanilla box it first, and then I'm gonna stub it up, vanilla box it, new roof, new exterior, new floors, and start showing it to
Prospective tenants, okay.
Yeah, it's too beat up to show anybody. It's actually dangerous. You can't walk in the building at this point. Car's still there. Anybody needs a car, let me know.
There's a mechanic right there. Oh my
Yes,
God.
a Riviera.
No, thank you. I don't- No more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good evening.
There will be email link up tomorrow.
I'll relay. Smart.
There'll be an email link up tomorrow with the solution. Your ES,
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have another presentation. I guess we should do that next, correct? Good evening.
Yeah, let's make sure that they can hear us online too. Is your mic on?
Yeah.
Can they hear me now?
Yeah,
Sure. Is it, we good? Because I think this seems to work out.
James, Linda, can you hear Crosby? You can?
You can hear me, James?
James?
Yes, I heard him.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time. I am here on behalf of IUG, the equitable owner of project. National Sports Event Center. And I'm here to give an update. Probably can talk for hours, so feel free to cut me off when you get bored. But basically, we're here to initially to extend our, we call it due diligence, we've been doing due diligence, but our development timeline from 12 months to 15 months, which would take it to the middle of July. Where do I begin? So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I spoke with Michael on Thursday afternoon. He said, I don't want to extend it for 1 month.
yeah, we will do it on a monthly basis, but we will be extending it every, all 3 months for sure. Okay, so any questions there?
So every 30 days you want
Yep.
to extend it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're not going anywhere. There's lots of parallel paths that are occurring right now. I guess I could start with land development. So we submitted a text amendment in the fall that ultimately resulted in front of land, in front of planning in January, I believe again in February, which then resulted in us being approved with planning to get in front of city council, which we were fortunate enough to have that the first reading of the text amendment that's related to the flats overlay district. And so that was the first reading was in March, and then we were fortunate to be successful in our second reading, which was on the 11th of April. So with the text amendment in hand, that paved the way for us to work towards finalizing our land development plans that we intend to have submitted in early May. What has occurred in more recent times is we've had Ingram Engineering out doing the geotech. They circulated their geotech reports on Friday. That's been passed along to our Berkeley Construction, who's our construction manager, Stillman Farmer, who's the architect, and then DL Hal, Joe Rosello, who's our civil engineer. So they are interpreting the results of the geotech, which has a significant impact on exactly how the building will be constructed, what kind of foundation we'll work with. So we anticipate that we're going to be doing similar work that you guys have been introduced to on the Third Avenue project, where I believe it's the same firm, Ingram, that basically does it essentially reinforces the soil when it's determined that it's not active enough to construct on, and that's a process whereby they're mixing concrete into the soil to create a solid foundation on which to build from. So we anticipate that is the direction that we'll be going on the foundation work. Over the next 90 days is our a lot of focus on exactly how we're going to finance this project. Because it's such a monumental task, we have elected to kind of bifurcate the financing such that we are working on financing the site improvements. The site improvements, both on-site and off-site. The all-in budget is north of $13 million. The on-site piece is roughly 10. Off-site piece, we're talking, when I say off-site, talking a couple of $1 million in Lincoln Highway. And again, these are all prospective, or basically everything we can possibly anticipate when it comes out of traffic. So right now, Frank Conning, another relationship of ours, is performing the traffic study, which will have significant impact as to what exactly is going to be required as far as signalization, lighting, the curbs, setbacks, stacking, basically everything, all the ingresses and egresses. At this point, we anticipate being approved for having 2 As you've probably all seen the site plan, we have the two basically entrances on the south side of the site, which would be Lincoln Highway, and one on the north side, which would be Glenside. The challenge there is that you're dealing with not only one municipality, but two. So we are working with Scott Pearsall with Valley to coordinate a kind of parallel. We don't want to we want to try to avoid basically having two land development plans simultaneously. So we're working towards the support from Valley, which we'll be going back to them once we have our finalized plans, and basically looking to have them follow along with the city land development efforts. So the main thing is that they're comfortable in making sure that they're not adversely impacted by any traffic patterns that would result in this development. But the reality is that we're not proposing any vertical in Valley. It's basically just curves and egress. So while we will remain sensitive to again any adverse traffic patterns that may arise, we hope that it will be a collaborative effort to streamline the approvals of this project when it comes to traffic. So going back to the financing, we are basically working to finance the site improvements, again, $10 million on site for water, storm, lighting, parking, pretty extraordinary number that's related to basically essentially creating a turnkey pad site, not only for the arena, which is roughly 3 acres, but also for the proposed hotel conference center. So ultimately, what we hope to or intend to have in hand upon having land development in place is that we would have 6 parcels that are, which is what it consists now. We'll have revised, some parcels will remain the same, but 4 parcels will be basically re-subdivided so that ultimately there'll be 2 pad sites that will be free and clear for vertical. And as we discussed in prior meetings, we would do a title agreement with the Industrial Development Authority to be eligible for the EDA grant, the Economic Development Administration, which is part of the Department of Commerce. That application and for that eligibility, we would basically do a 20-year title agreement with the the IDA. In addition, we've also submitted for BIOS, and basically, you guys are familiar with that, which is a 60-40 loan grant program in which basically we would personally guarantee 60% of the allocation in the form of loan, and then 40% would be in the form of grant. And basically, both of those programs would be shared first position via in conjunction with the title agreement with the IDA. The last piece is on is the perspective of potentially multimodal on the off-site piece. And effectively, what I intend to be able to accomplish between now and the middle of July is to have commitment that we have the financing in place to do the site improvements. And while we intend to have more advancement on the vertical financing, it's our anticipation that we would look to move forward with the development of the site while we continue to basically capitalize the vertical. I look at it, and my personal opinion is that if we could put $10 million into that ground, it's a net benefit to the community while we continue to develop the project. And so again, I will have one more share as we continue to advance this project along. Lastly, well, not lastly, on the vertical side, our current building consists of 245,000 square feet. It's right now, due to market conditions, has escalated our number to 65 million. That number we've always anticipated when we started this 2 years ago was roughly 50 million. Now, the building did expand some, but the reality is that we're just facing market forces that make this challenging. So that is why, while I appreciate the reservations of the board in chasing non-traditional financing, I'm going to turn over every stone possible to ensure that the successful delivery of this project to the city of Coatesville. So getting into the building itself, you kind of, rough financing at this point. Basically, the project continues to be effectively composed of three big parts. One is the arena itself. That is, the 3,000 fixed seats arena, which has always been the consistency, and it consists of family event center, 12,000 square feet of retail, all that good stuff that we've talked about for years in the arena. The second piece is the field house, which originally was 35,000 square feet, consisting of 4 regulation size basketball courts or 8 volleyball courts. In our conversations with the YMCA, we agreed to give up one of the courts in order to provide more square footage and frontage for a user that we believe would be important to the community. We also added an annex off the north side that was an additional 30,000 square feet over 2 floors, again, to accommodate that use. Unfortunately, that it wasn't where we needed to be. We've shifted gears, and we're in the process of reviewing a memorandum of understanding with the Boys and Girls Club of Philadelphia that has expressed an interest in coming to Coatesville and sharing their successes in Philadelphia here. So we've spent a fair amount of time and goodwill in trying to build a relationship there. We believe that it's vital to the project in having a youth-oriented nonprofit associated with us for many reasons, but the primary reason is we want an organization like that to basically be the conduit to our local youth for the next generation of Coatesville citizens. We don't want this, we recognize that everybody in this room doesn't want this project to be an island in the middle of Coatesville. So we're always looking for opportunities in which we can make the bridge or connect to the community and open doors. That all being said, I've been very clear that this is not a community center. While I want to make it accessible to the local residents of the city of Coatesville, I don't expect the local residents of the city of Coatesville to support such a facility. And so therefore, in the way I look at it, this is a destination facility that will be supported by the region. And as a result, it will create the opportunity and the economic impact that we need locally to support our local families here in the city of Coatesville. So that's a kind of the dynamic between those two. I've also sat with the chief of police and dialogue with the idea of relaunching PAL, replace athletically. There's been a long tradition of the Boys and Girls Club of Philadelphia collaborating with PAL. We realized that when we were touring facilities in the Philadelphia area. And I think that given the challenges that urban centers have had, especially during COVID, that this would be a great way to help the police with their community patrol. So it would be our intention, and we still have plenty of discussions with the Coatesville PD, but that we would create or look to create an annex police office in the facility that would not only be provide police presence, but would also integrate with ideally Boys and Girls Club or or another youth-oriented nonprofit to integrate with the kids coming in and out of the facility. Do I keep going? So again, this is this is a lift, and I am committed to making this happen. We're double down and continue to find different ways. But at the end of the day, we are here to overcome the challenges that were faced. You're hearing it from some of your other projects. We are not insulated on flats. It's not an island by any means, and the expenses and challenges, financial challenges to pull this project together is no different than a lot of these other projects that you guys are hearing. So that all being said, is that we remain resilient, remain confident that we will find a way to produce this facility. We continue to establish more and more relationships, and I'm sure with the right questions, you could probably get more information out of me, because there's lots more, but I don't want to keep you guys here all night. So
Sorry.
yes, sure.
You know, very good.
I appreciate that.
So you said that there was an element that was important to the community. You said collaborate and work with or why to take away a basketball court and what?
They would actually be their own basketball courts. They just wanted to control their space. So it was more of like, so part of the feasibility and sustainability of get going is attracting the outside. So those 4 courts, i.e. 2 in the infield and 4 in the field house, gave us 6 courts, of which they would all be regulation size, so that we can have major basketball tournaments in our facility, bringing to Coatesville. And just using basketball, for example, volleyball, you name it, pickleball, whatever. The YMCA wanted, control of their own gym, so to speak. So what we did was, you would look at the field house and you could say, basically, you carve it up into 4 basketball courts. We gave them the kind of the one that has the frontage on the, when you drive in, and we put it and we attached it to the rest of their facility, so that they controlled it, and it was their space, and it wasn't us letting them use the space. They wanted to just control it, just like if they had their own facility, anywhere else, and they've got a basketball gym, they're not worried about access to it, and they control it. So that
They're
was
in partnership in conjunction with a certain percentage of space in this facility.
Say that, I'm sorry.
They're in partnership and conjunction with a certain space in the facility,
They-
certain square footage.
that was the idea until the whole conversation went sideways. But yes,
So are they still?
no. That's why the Boys and Girls Club is in the conversation, so.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You said that you're focusing on the youth, right? You said that you're focusing on the youth and you want to bring a nonprofit
Sure.
and you want that to be a youth element to it as nonprofit. Where is that coming from? Because you mentioned Philly, but then you came back up this way and said something about how. So
Yeah, so, okay, I apologize if I'm doing a bad job of explaining on that piece. So basically, you have, a longstanding organization like Boys and Girls Club that's, they're regionalized, but they're national, right? So we're interfacing with the Boys and Girls Club of Philadelphia. We reached out to them basically in light of our setback with the YMCA. And we said, this is our project.
We're looking for a branded, youth-oriented nonprofit to work with us to create synergies that would maximize the value of this project in our community. And the initial responses, I get these calls. Joe said I get he and his wife Elizabeth are the co-CEO, the Philadelphia chapter, if you will. Like, we get these calls all the time, but it's like then the second breath is, but this is very unique, so let's talk about it. And he's a really interesting guy. And ultimately, what we look to work with them is that they have a reputable foundation that's been in the Philadelphia area for nearly 150 years. And they know how to, he's redeveloped the Boys and Girls Club all over the country. And he's the guy when it comes to like, okay, how do we launch something like this? How do we work? So it's still part of that organization, but it's in collaboration with what we're doing. So, but the ultimate thing is that we wanted a branded organization that families feel comfortable in dropping their kids off at the facility. I hope that kind of helps. And that was really why we talked about, initially wanted the YMCA, household name, everybody kind of understands and trusts what that organization represents. That didn't work. So we shifted gears and go in that direction. How do we layer on more value? Conversation with Pal. So really it's, and these are just things that we're working on, but ultimately we feel that we can create the greatest value by creating these partnerships together. I answered the question. I'm sorry if
Okay. You said that it was 10 million on site, which I'm assuming on site, I thought you were saying directly next stormwater sidewalks. What was the inside? What was the number for inside?
That's the same thing. I'm sorry. It's when you say
On site, I'm assuming
off-site versus on-site. So the property that that RDA owns would be the on-site.
So what's the number on that?
10 million. Right? Yeah, 10 million to give out to develop the site so we have 2 turnkey pad sites, all the infrastructure, sewer, water, gas, electric, all the storm, curb, sidewalk lights.
So what would the pad size be? 64 million is the
So
total project?
the building currently, and this is prior to us actually value engineering. And now what I'm trying to do is get small wins here, and continue to show progress. The vertical, factoring in the market conditions is our construction managers got it at north of 60 million. Yeah. The infrastructure, again, not having value engineered because we don't have the traffic study and we don't know what we have to deliver to PennDOT, but to deal with all that. He said throwing everything at it, it's 13 million. 10 on site, 3 off. Right. Yep. I appreciate your questions.
Any other questions for Crosby?
How comfortable are you? I know I heard you say you turn over every stone to secure the financing. Just tell me a little bit about that, just very briefly.
So I think what I'm referring to is the unconventional. So I feel I can get at least 2/3 of the way doing issuing a bond. I think I intend and expect to have visibility on that over these next 90 days. Then the question is the gap financing of, okay, what can we lean on with our nonprofit partner? How can we do, we've been pretty clear that we're doing a philanthropic raise to the cycling community. And we intend to elaborate that raise in order to absorb the the challenges that we're dealing with inflation and just the market conditions. And then at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to owner's equity, you know, to get us to the thing, value engineering and owner's equity. And, you know, and
Additional questions? Thank you.
Excuse me, Carter, you taking around?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank
Citizens' comments on agenda items? All right, okay. New business, letter A. Consider ratifying the RDA letters of support to Senator Casey and Representative Houlihan for the city's application for Federal Community Board of Commissioners for the initial phase of Ash Park project funding. I would make a motion to support that. Thank you, Ricky. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Letter B, consider ratifying the revised amendment 3 to the redevelopment agreement for 300 East Lincoln Highway. And that is the moving settlement basically to on or before April 29th. 120 days for the developer to submit plans to the city and 240 days for the developer to actually commence construction. I believe you were given a copy of that, and he also has agreed to pay up to $4,500 in our costs for doing these amendments and so forth. Questions on the amendment or your pleasure, please? Thank you, Joe. Could I get a second? Thank you, Jack. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Letter C under new business, consider approving addendum 1 to sound redevelopment agreement for NSEC Flats project and IDG Development LLC. That's basically they're taking the option of a 30-day extension in their due diligence period and will be depositing an additional $10,000 with the escrow agent. Could I get a motion on that? Thank you, Tyrone. I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Can we do? All these things. Letter D is considered a sale and redevelopment agreement with 600 Manor Road LLC. That's the current owner of the Marriott in connection with Coatesville Hotel remediation and renovations. If we do decide to move forward with this, it would be based on them paying the taxes, agreeing to the requirements of the TIF, fulfilling the TIF requirements, taking care of any mechanics liens that may be out there, a reimbursement to the RDA for expenses related to this. We would have to have it contingent upon city council's approval because it is a transfer of RDA land. And we would have to get approval from CFA because they have liens against the property up there. We're basically trying to put this project to bed, you know, to relieve the RDA of responsibility associated with the hotel and the property that it's on. I would make a motion to move. And that little eyebrow, which is across the creek, the steep slope bank, because they were connected. I would make a motion to move this thing forward with those contingencies. Thank you, Ricky. All those in favor? Aye. Letter E, we have to take off our agenda. Letter F, consider presentation redeveloper update. We did that already for the record building. Letter G is to consider a contribution of $10,000 to Coatesville Second Century Alliance. We've done this in the past. You think we should abstain? Could we get a motion on that? On the support for Second Century? Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Tyrone. All those in favor? Aye. Abstentions? Jack wants to abstain because he's on their board. Okay. Citizens' comments? Nothing there? Okay. We're good. Our next meeting will be on May 16th. And Tyrone, could I get a motion to adjourn? Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight. Have a good evening.